Welcome back to Cards and Comics, guys. Today I have another complete insert set from the 90s I'm going to be reviewing and discussing. And yes, I said reviewing because in 2025, I am going to kind of rate and review these sets and give you a score based on some criteria, which I'll go through in a minute. And I have picked up quite a few sets from the 90s I'm going to review, and some of them are very rare and very cool. And so I felt like I wanted to kind of put them all in sort of a spectrum or give you an idea of where I think they rank. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, the criteria I'm going to talk about is, I came up with, four, design areas, or four areas for ratings, and plus a kind of a bonus. Now, the four areas I'm going to rate the cards on are, the player selection, what players are in the set, the rarity of the cards, how rare the set is, the design of the set, how desirable is the design, and also some consideration if there's an issue with that design, such as it's easy to counterfeit. It's easy to damage. A lot of times there's cards from those sets damaged right out of packs. So that's a consideration I have when I look at these cards. The value, I'm going to use basically in all these sets, there's a Griffey because they're baseball sets. I'm going to look at that valuation, just kind of give you an idea. Is it really expensive? Is it kind of mid, on the mid-level scale, or is it kind of on the cheaper side of the scale? And then a bonus category is going to be if it's got any sort of historical significance. For example, 93 refractors, first year for refractors. You've got the first year Upper Deck Game U set, that kind of thing. So that's going to be the criteria we're going to go through. And I've kind of put some thoughts on the ratings. So I'll walk through them with you as I discuss them. So the first set we're going to talk about today is from 1997 Topps, and it's the Sweet Stroke set. So here's the full set. I have it right here. And we'll go through the player selection first, and I'll talk about rarity, and we'll just kind of go through the whole set. So in context, the thing that's weird about this set is, it's listed as produced in 1996. Which, I know that there could be just the idea that it was, copied, they printed it in 96 and released it in 97, whatever. But the one thing that in context historically, what I want to say is that the 96 Topps set had really basic, I call it kind of ugly looking inserts compared to 97. They really upped the game in 97. So these inserts to me are really part of this kind of Topps kind of recognizing they just can't rely on refractors and, cards that may or may not have any sort of aesthetic value outside of the Chrome cards, which they really kind of relied upon for a lot of years. So here's the players in the set. So they're all in number and order. So we'll start here. Roberto Alomar. So again, the set design is really cool. I like the fact that, well, besides being horizontal, you have kind of like this foil board, and then you have etched foil here. So when you feel these cards, you can feel this etching on this side panel here. One thing to think about too is it's hard to tell centering on these cards, but you can see on certain cards this upper border, this upper part, some is wider than others. So I don't know, if you had enough of these cards, you might be able to use that these two borders to kind of make a determination on centering. So, from a player selection, so you get Roberto Alomar, you've got Jeff Bagwell. So again, they're very shiny. They are very, to me, for not being a refractor, it's still probably the best use of foil board and this kind of etched foil, that they really did. They really started to kind of hone in on this technology, making it look really nice. You got Albert Bell. Here's a good one, Barry Bonds. So this is, again, definitely one of the better players you'd want to get in the set. Mark Grace. The big guy, Ken Griffey Jr., and that's a classic swing pose of the follow through Griffey. So this is a really cool card. We'll talk about value here in a minute. Tony Gwynn. So again, another great hitter. And so this set was basically about good hitters. So no pitchers. Chipper Jones. Edgar Martinez. So you can kind of see it does have a really nice selection of hitters from that era. Obviously, you're going to have Mark McGwire because, again, this is 97. You got Rafael Palmeiro. So a lot of the steroid era guys. So you got Bonds, Palmeiro, McGwire. Here's Mike Piazza. Again, great looking card. Gary Sheffield. So non-Hall of Famer here. Still a great player. Frank Thomas, which you always like to see Frank Thomas. And then Mo Vaughn. So, the only card that doesn't, the card player that to me is odd that's not in the set is, for the time, was like Sammy Sosa, right? You know, you've got all these great kind of steroid era hitters, and then you don't have Sammy Sosa, which is kind of odd. I'm not sad now looking back, you know, as a collector today, because I'm not a big Sammy Sosa collector, you know, so to me, it's all about these two guys for me. So from a player selection perspective, you know, like it's, you know, I want to have, I'm trying to get the glare, Thomas and Griffey, right? That's the two guys that I really need to have in the set. And the trifecta would be if it was Derek Jeter. So, you know, that's to me like, for my rate this, you know, out of a 10, if it doesn't have Griffey, you can't score higher than a 5. No matter what, because it has to have Griffey, because that's who I collect, that's my main PC. So, obviously, having a Griffey, it gets at least to a 5. Having the Frank Thomas gets it to a 7. If it had the Jeter, it'd be a 9, but it has a Bonds. So, the Bonds definitely helps. It's got Tony Gwynn. So, I'm going to give this a total player selection score of 8 out of 10. I think it's good for this. It's good for the era, and again, it kind of misses Sammy Sosa, and you know a lot of times Sammy Sosa takes up a spot from a player you'd rather have, and that's definitely for me. You know, you still have Palmeiro, you still have Sheffield. I don't think Sheffield's not as bad for me, but like there's Mark Grace, you know, instead of Sammy Sosa, which is interesting. Let's go into rarity. So, how rare were these inserts back in 1997? Well, the thing that's interesting about these cards is that they were 1 in 12 packs. So, from a perspective of 97 tops, that's that's 3 per box. So, not really rare. So, from that perspective, kind of how I look at it is, you know, if it's 1 per box, you know, 1 in 36 packs or 1 in 24, I generally give it a 5. That's to me like an average insert rarity is 1 per box. 3 per box gets us, you know, down to a 3. I would just give this a 3. You know, it's not really rare. You're going to open 3 boxes. Now you need 5 boxes for a full set. So again, I'm not going to give it a 1 or 2, but 3 is about where I'm at with this kind of rarity. There was, again, a ton of 97 tops printed, so there's going to be a lot of these cards out there. So they're not overly that rare. But again, they're very attractive. And what I see in these sets is people who have these cards like them. And they go into a lot of player collection sets. You see that happening where people actually put these kind of non-rare inserts, not numbered. But people will PC them because they look very nice. So that goes back to the design. So again, player selection is 8. The rarity is a 3. So design overall. So, you know, getting back to this Griffey card here, looking at the design. Again, to me, it's... For a non-chrome card, it's about as good a design as you can possibly have. The back, let's talk about the back a little bit. It gives some, you know, 96 season, you know, highlights here. And again, tops did some weird, you know, home away, day, night, grass, turf, little write-up here. The back has kind of a groovy kind of, you know, like design, you know, kind of like a 70s design. It's all about this kind of 3D effect, the scroll effect, you know, the galaxy far, far away type scroll here, and then you've got the you know, these borders here that are textured, and again a lot of shininess. So overall, from my, you know, how I'm looking at this, With the shiny factor, the fact that it's got the texturedness, it doesn't have multiple design elements like, it's die cut plus foil plus refractor or something like that. So, but I still really like it, and I'm going to give it a 7. I know that's probably maybe too high for some people because it is base tops, it is non-refractor, non-die cut, but to me, it's as good a foil bore design as you're going to really get out there from a set like this, from a base top set. To me, it's a really good, well-designed card, and unusual sometimes for Topps. Topps definitely sometimes had very lazy set designs for inserts in their base product. So I gave it a 7. Value. So let's get into value. So I'm going to base this only off the Griffey because all the other cards, like, we talk about this, Frank Thomas is usually like worth 10% of what a Griffey card is a lot of times, or it's like, like if the Griffey's $100, it's like $50 max. In that case, I would say it's probably $20. If the Griffey's 100, the Frank Thomas is 20 as a 10, PSA 10. Now I looked at prices here. So this is what gets really interesting. Again, this is a 1 in 12 or 3 per box insert. A raw version of this card has sold many times recently between $25 and $30 raw on eBay. That's a very strong price for a non-numbered, non-chrome, pretty low or pretty easy to get from a rarity perspective card. So that shows that there's a high demand from a collector base to have this card because it just looks so nice. It's a very attractive card. PSA 9s go between 45 and 60, so that the 9s do go above the raw price, which sometimes they don't. 45 to 60 bucks for a 9. And a PSA 10 sold in December of last year now for $265. That's a pretty good price. That's a strong price for a card that is, not that hard to get. It's not that rare. So from that perspective, from a value perspective, it's a solid 5. It's, a lot of times these base insert products like this, they're not worth a whole lot. Even in a PSA 10, like in Flirt Ultra, another, where you've got a lot of insert sets that are like 1 in 10, 1 in 12, 1 in 5. Those value isn't that high. So to me, 5 is a pretty strong value for an insert set that's 1 in 12. And then the last kind of bonus category, is there any special significance to this set? Does it have any sort of like, first of anything, a player that you never see in an insert set, things like that? The answer is really no. It has really no significance other than the fact that it was one of the first, I would call like, new Topps, getting more focused on better design around 97. From that perspective, I give it a 1. So overall, scores 24. So right about average. If you look at the spectrum, you say, okay, the best score you can get is 45. It's scored a 24. For a base Topps insert set, I think it's going to be probably high. I think you're going to have a lot of base Topps insert sets, if I rated them, would score in the below 20, for a lot of those sets. So I do feel like this is one of the stronger designed 90s insert set from a base Topps product. So that's how you got to look at it. It's not something that was designed to be super rare and hard to get. It was designed so you get a couple in a box and they look really cool. And you would, as a kid, I know pulling this card out of a pack, I would have been super stoked. I would have looked at that card and been like, that card's awesome looking. I'm super happy I hit it. I don't care if it's 1 in 12 packs. It looks really cool. So there it is, guys. This is the first one I've done. Let me know if you like the format. Again, I'm going to start, keeping tabs of all my scores. And then at the end of the year, hopefully we can kind of look at the whole spectrum and say, hey, I did 10 or 15 sets and here is, where they all scored. And does it make sense? Am I consistent? Do I have like, does the scores all fit? Because, you kind of learn and make some tweaks and adjustments to the scale and how you do it as you get better at this. Again, this is the first time I'm doing it. So I've got multiple sets I purchased that I'm going to be doing this on. So you're going to see these videos coming out pretty frequently. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.